It's Tuesday, December 6th. In the headlines, MOU signed between Jamaica's New York consulate and government. Regionally, Cuban president arrives in Barbados. And in sports, England takes first ODI against West Indies women. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The government of Jamaica continues to explore every avenue available to improve the healthcare delivery for its citizens. A recent memorandum of understanding between Hartford Healthcare Corporation and the Ministry of Health and Wellness has already started to yield outstanding results. Maya Chung reports.
The Consulate General of Jamaica, New York, has facilitated the signing of an important memorandum of understanding between the Government of Jamaica through the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Hartford Healthcare Corporation, HHC. The MOU is specifically geared to deepening the relationship between Hartford Healthcare Corporation and the Government of Jamaica for the advancement of healthcare delivery in Jamaica. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has been putting in significant efforts nationally, regionally, and globally to concretize this relationship. The Memorandum of Understanding has 5 main objectives, which include facilitation of academic and professional exchanges between the parties to enable skill and knowledge transfer. It is on this basis and as a result of its partnership with the Jamaican Consulate General, New York, that Hartford has agreed to host a team from the University of the West Indies Mona Campus Faculty of Medical Sciences on December 6th and 7th. Through this visit, the UWI team will be given the opportunity to tour the institution's Center for Education, Simulation and Innovation, which is an advanced medical training facility that provides remote access and in-person capacity building for medical students and faculty, as well as continuing education for doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals. As a special part of this visit, HHC will broadcast a session back to Jamaica, where UWI's medical students and faculty will be allowed to participate in a demonstration. Consul General Alcian Wilson, in speaking on the MOU and the characteristics that it possesses, said all involved certainly see it as a major step in the right direction. The Consul General said she was pleased with the swift response from the Jamaican government. Consul General Wilson lauded the officials involved at the United States end of the MOU for their passionate willingness to aid in the development of Jamaican medical students. The Consul General also praised Hartford Healthcare for committing to the partnership, a well-needed thrust for the ongoing development of the Jamaican healthcare system going forward. The Hartford Healthcare Institution also contributed towards the acquisition of 26 oxygen concentrators that were shipped to Jamaica in November. For PBCJ News, I am Maya Chung.
If you pass by the intersection of Moore and Duff Streets in Rosetown, you will see the corner library, designed with zinc, wooden pallets and old refrigerators transformed into bookshelves by residents. The library attracts children as young as 2 years old, teenagers, adults, and senior citizens, some in their 80s. Co-founder Rachel McDonald got lost trying to find the Rosetown Foundation in July, and her stop to inquire for directions led to a reasoning and the establishment of the Street Corner Library in the gritty St. Andrew community. She says while reasoning with the residents, she was told that they wanted to promote reading, and they came up with the Corner Library.
It is phenomenal on so many levels. It is an opportunity to showcase repurposed refrigerators. We have refrigerators that often end up in the gullies, in the waterways, and that causes flooding, that breeds mosquitoes and become public health nuisances. So we show how we can reuse and repurpose the refrigerators into bookshelves. We have books for adults, books for children, and books for a variety of student-aged, or rather school books and resources. So there's something for everyone. In addition to that, it's an opportunity to bring community together. So we have children coming out to do their homework on the corner. We have children coming out just to read a story. We have mothers, young mothers, who are learning about the value in read aloud, for example. And we also have a variety of adults, especially young males, that are coming out and engaging with content.
Today, the library has approximately 1,000 titles ranging from novels, biographies, self-help text to picture and storybooks. Condre Leverage explains the benefit of the library.
So the Ghana Library for Community Development is to promote a culture of learning, right? And it's to promote positive adult-to-child interaction. And it is also to encourage and to show them that knowledge is what will help us to develop. So it's an initiative of the Rosetown community. And what it is that they are trying to figure out ways in which they can develop their community. They can also increase the knowledge base because they realize that education is the key. And the only way we can change our situation is through knowledge. So what you see happening now is that those who they consider us that they're not contributing, they are now becoming assets to their community. What you'd realize with the Ghana Library is that on the weekends, the kids are engaged in educational games, they are engaged in reading, there's a homework program where they are helped with their homework, there's a young mothers program, and also now we're working on the internet so that they'll have access to the internet and they'll be able to have research material and everything. So it is an asset to the community and it's also a resource center.
You're going to do this one for me, toothbrush. That is a compound word. Let me see you spell toothbrush. Toothbrush. Excellent, very good, all right.
Ms. MacDonald says the Early Childhood Commission will be interacting with parents who have young children, and a program for first-time mothers is scheduled for November, which is celebrated as National Parent Month.
We are hoping to get more corporate funding and funding by just about anyone. And let me just pause and acknowledge the support that we have had so far from all of Jamaica. We have had persons donating books, and we have an ongoing book drive because libraries need to be stocked. And we have people from everywhere, people from within the community donating books, people from outside of the community donating books. And just as a plug, if you want to donate books, please just message us on Instagram for the Fun JA. We are continually collecting books.
In today's Living Healthy, we talk about taking care of your mental health. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps to determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through to adulthood. So, do you know whether or not you are in a good mental state? And how do you take care of your mental health? Let's learn how from the World Health Organization, the WHO.
WHO's World Mental Health Report says that mental health is the leading cause of disability. What are the signs and how can we keep ourselves safe? Hello, I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. Welcome to Science in 5. We are talking to Dr. Mark von Umeren. Welcome, Mark. Mark, tell us about this WHO report that says that mental health is a leading cause for disability. Explain that to us.
WHO does advanced calculations in coming up with a conclusion like that. And these calculations, they include a number of different sources of information. One of them is that for an individual, when they have a mental health condition such as depression, it's actually very impairing. So many workplaces, the leading cause for people not being at work for sickness leave is because of mental health conditions, although that's often not said. Similarly, these conditions are very common. In fact, they start off in the teenage years, in adolescent years, and largely they are untreated. Indeed, only less than 1 in 3 people around the world are getting mental health care for their mental health condition.
Mark, speak to us about how the pandemic has impacted our mental health, and also how can we recognize these signs in ourselves or in our loved ones?
The pandemic has been, as you can imagine, very hard on people's lives, and it has really shone a light on mental health. The rates have gone up first year of the pandemic for anxiety and depression about 25%, meaning that about 25% more people than before had depression or anxiety, which is enormous. And for suicide, we didn't see the rates go up, but that's good news. But we're carefully monitoring that. We, in terms of people with pre-existing severe mental illness, they were more likely to catch the virus, more likely to be severely ill from the virus, and in fact even more likely to die from the virus. These are facts that are very important and have not been highlighted enough. In terms of your own mental health, if you find yourself to have persistent anxiety, which you didn't have before, persistent sadness or depression or sad mood that you didn't have before, or drinking more alcohol, or having lost pleasure and interest in things that you used to like, and then these are concerns, and you need to take action to either seek help or to learn about how to manage these.
So Mark, tell us, what can people do to keep themselves mentally healthy?
To stay mentally healthy, one can do a number of things. One of the things that one can do and should do is to stay physically active. That's important for health and physical health. Second thing that's very important to do is to avoid alcohol. Alcohol is often used by people to think that they would be mentally feeling better, but actually it makes mental health problems more complex and more difficult to overcome. Thirdly, one should do every day something that is either enjoyable or meaningful. If enjoyable, could be talking to a friend or going for a walk. And finally, one can practice stress management techniques such as mindfulness, which is increasingly popular and is evidence-based. If you develop a mental health problem and these tips are not enough, then it will be important to seek help, preferably from a health professional. But let's say there's no trusted health professional in your community, then at least talk to a trusted person in your community, maybe a friend or another person that you think is worth discussing with, to get their to have them listen to you and perhaps get their feedback on how you can deal with your difficulties. Also, what can be helpful is self-help. There are a number of self-help books out there and self-help materials online. When they are based on what is called cognitive behavioral therapy, then they're usually very good.
Thank you, Mark. Here's wishing you all good mental health. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
Time now for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited, TJH, is moving to acquire Jamaican Infrastructure Operator, JIO, the French-owned company that manages and operates the East-West toll network on its behalf to reduce its operating expenses. This is according to the TJH Managing Director, Ivan Anderson. Anderson says that the acquisition will allow the TJH to save approximately $12 million per year, since JIO represents more than 70% of their total cost. The sale is estimated to cost $16.1 million. 4-year market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, December 5, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.53. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.08. The pound sterling traded for $190.24, and the euro sold for $166. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 147 points. The junior market index advanced by 2 points. The combined market index advanced by 155 points. And the All-Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,730 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 116 stocks, of which 46 advanced, 48 declined, and 22 traded firm. Stocks advance for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and CAC 2000 Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Epi 7.50% preference shares due 2024. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 2 million units, Dollar Financial Services Limited, and Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 600,000 units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 8,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with a volume of 12 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with 3,000 shares. They were followed by Epic Caribbean Property Fund, Value Fund, which traded 335 shares. In regional business, President Dr. Ifran Ali announced on Friday that the Hess Corporation will pay Guyana $750 million for saving the rainforest through a special carbon credit scheme. More in this Newsroom Guyana report.
Guyana, in a historic move, became the world's first country to secure special carbon credits issued by the United Nations-backed Architecture for REDD+ Transactions, ART, paving the way for the country to get payments to continue protecting its rainforests. And on Friday at the State House in Georgetown, Guyana inked an agreement to sell some 30% of its available carbon credits to oil giant Hess Corporation for at least $750 million over the next 10 years. The announcement of Hess being the first buyer was made by President Dr. Irfan Ali in the presence of the Chief Executive Officer of Hess Corporation, John Hess. President Ali said the landmark deal for Guyana signals that the country continues to show the world its environmental prowess by virtue of getting these credits. And though the country is now pursuing a prolific oil and gas industry, which is seen by some as conflicting with its environmental stewardship, Dr. Ali believes that Guyana is demonstrating its commitment to keeping the environment safe.
Our commitment to climate change and to work towards environmental issues and protecting the forests as a main tool in addressing climate change is beyond question. And although we are pursuing an aggressive energy platform, our commitment must never and can never be questioned, because our commitment is always backed by strong action. If there is any area where Guyana has long been recognized as a global leader, it is in our work to safeguard our natural heritage.
In international business, U.S. markets ended lower as investors spooked by better than expected data from the services sector. More in this Reuters report.
The Dow fell 1.4%, the S&P lost nearly 1.8%, and the Nasdaq dropped more than 1.9%. Data showed activity in the U.S. services industry unexpectedly picked up in November, with employment rebounding, offering more evidence of underlying momentum in the economy, not what the Fed wants when it's trying to slow the economy in order to cool inflation. Anna Rathbun is Chief Investment Officer at CBIZ Investment Advisory Services.
Those data include better than expected factory orders, durable goods, and in particular, the ISM Service Index came in very strong. And in the service index, we had details like sticky prices on the prices paid side and very strong employment sub-index, the two very things that go against the Fed pivot narrative. And this is really interesting because the Fed, well, Chairman Powell was very hawkish last week, and the markets actually didn't interpret it that way. They were cherry picking the 50 basis point signal, and markets went up. Well, today it's a little bit more sober.
As for individual movers, Tesla slumped 6.4% on plans to cut December output of the Model Y at its Shanghai plant by more than 20% from the previous month. And apparel maker VF Corp dropped 11.2%, its largest one-day decline since March 2020, after announcing the sudden retirement of its CEO. The firm, which owns names including outdoor wear brand The North Face and sneaker maker Vans, also cut its full-year sales and profit forecasts, blaming weaker-than-anticipated consumer demand.
In market data for oil prices fell in a volatile market as the US dollar stayed strong and economic uncertainty offset the bullish impact of a price cap placed on Russian oil and the prospects of a demand boost in China. Brent crude futures fell $1.21 to $81.47 a barrel, and the West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.18 to $75.75. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has arrived in Barbados for the 8th CARICOM-Cuban Summit taking place at the Lloyd Erickson Sandiford Center, St. Michael. Wendy Burke has the report.
The march on of the members of the Barbados Coast Guard and the Barbados Police Service Band marked the touchdown of the plane carrying Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. The red carpet was laid for the official visit. He was accompanied by several members of his delegation and was met by Barbados official party of Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, Minister of Foreign Affairs Kerry Simmons, chaperone to the Cuban President Davidson Ishmael, Ambassador of Barbados to Cuba Philip St. Hill, Chief of Staff of the Barbados Defense Force, Commodore Arrington Sherlin, Commissioner of Police Richard Boyce, and Chief of Protocol Risa Lane. The official welcome saw a gun salute, the unfurling of the Cuban flag, and the official introductions of the two parties. The Cuban President and the Prime Minister inspecting the troops as the band played. The anthems of the two countries were then played before the official party left the airport for discussions at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center.
In Grenada, new arrangements were reached in July by the National Democratic Congress administration to resume airlift via St. Vincent, Curacao, and Grenada. However, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Air has encountered a technical issue. GBN News has the story.
SVG Air, which operates the Twin Otter aircraft, has said in a statement that it has been forced to take the aircraft out of service because the engines were damaged by gravel and grit. According to a statement from SVG Air, on October 29th, the pilots reported an issue with the engines on the last flight from Carriacou to St. Vincent. After inspection, it was identified that the engines had sustained significant damage due to the ingestion of gravel and grit. As a result, the aircraft was grounded and both engines sent for repairs. The statement went on to say since the end of October, they have been sub-chartering aircrafts to maintain the Carriacou service. But unfortunately, it is now getting busy and aircrafts are no longer reliably available to charter. The SVGS statement noted that this will cause an interruption to the service for several weeks at a minimum. SVGS said they are working closely with the government of Grenada to source an additional aircraft that will be based in Grenada for 2023. GBN caught up with Minister for Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs, the Honourable Tevin Andrews, outside of Parliament today. He said he had no immediate comments. What he did tell GBN, however, is there are some exciting news to come before December 31st.
In the Bahamas, it appears as if there has been some progress on the redevelopment of the Grand Bahama Airport, with a local daily reporting that a Bahamian group is working out a partnership with the Dublin Airport Authority. It is welcome news for Bahamians who have been asking for a new, more adequate airport facility since the passage of Hurricane Dorian.
Busy and aircrafts are no longer reliably available to charter. The SVGS statement noted that this will cause an interruption to the service for several weeks at a minimum. SVGS said they are working closely with the government of Grenada to source an additional aircraft that will be based in Grenada for 2023. GBN caught up with Minister for Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs, the Honourable Tevin Andrews, outside of Parliament today. He said he had no immediate comments. What he did tell GBN, however, is there are some exciting news to come before December 31st.
In international news, China has bid farewell to former Prime Minister with sirens blaring out tributes as people across the country observed 3 minutes of silence for the former president. Al Jazeera's Patrick Falk reports.
Air raid sirens sounding across the country as China mourns its former leader, Jiang Zemin. In the capital, people took pause to reflect with flags at half-mast. At a memorial service held in Beijing, senior Communist Party officials, past and present, paid their final respects, many of them wearing white chrysanthemums, a traditional symbol of mourning. Jiang Zemin took power in the aftermath of one of the darkest moments of Chinese history. The killing of pro-democracy demonstrators in Tiananmen Square in 1989 led to international condemnation and crippling sanctions. It was under Jiang's leadership that China re-emerged as a global powerhouse.
He was entrusted with the mission at a critical moment. Comrade Jiang firmly stated, "For the cause of the party and the people, I will spare no effort until the end of my life."
The Communist Party says China's rise proves the crackdown in 1989 was justified. President Xi also paid tribute to Jiang for supporting the government's opposition to the protests. Since his death, there's been an outpouring of grief. Well, here in Hong Kong, Jiang is remembered as the leader who oversaw the city's handover from Britain back to China. And it was a period of optimism and a period when many people were excited about the trajectory that China was on. Many people thought the country was opening up and liberalizing, but the crackdown on the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong has caused uncertainty about the future. As the mainland grapples with a wave of anger against COVID-19 controls and simmering discontent with diminishing civil rights under the current leadership, some people are mourning the past, despite Jiang's own record on tightening freedoms.
I think history is always used in different ways, right? And so Jiang could be seen as a representative of a more tolerant time. It was more tolerant. China was also just part of the world, and it was opening up. People were able to travel for the first time freely, and Jiang put a big premium on good relations with the United States and Western countries.
Under Xi Jinping, by contrast, relations with the West have become increasingly fraught, and China has become more closed off to the rest of the world, echoing the days of Mao.
In sports, England women dominated with bat and ball at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, where they faced the West Indies in the first of 3 one-day internationals. This is how it unfolded in Antigua.
Hayley Matthews won the toss, then elected to field, and the West Indies found early success in the 4th over when Sherry-Ann Fraser had Alice Capsey caught by wicketkeeper Kaisia Knight. They had some other breakthroughs before the 20th over, but some good partnerships kept the English in sight of a massive score, the best of those being 103 off 95 balls between Nat Seaver and Danny Wyatt. Seaver was out for 90 in the 40th over, and after some big hitting, Wyatt departed for 68 off 60, both falling to Chanel Henry, who ended with figures of 3 wickets for 59 runs from her 10 overs. England amassing 307 for 7 in their 50 overs. West Indies was set back early in the chase when Kate Cross broke the opening stand in the 3rd over, and Hayley Matthews retired hurt with a score on 21. A 63-run stand between Kaisia Knight and Rashada Williams was the only meaningful partnership for the host, and it ended when Williams was run out for 34 in the 20th over. Charlie Dean then triggered a West Indies slide by dismissing Shermaine Campbell for a duck, and Kaisia Knight fell to a namesake for 39, just past the halfway mark. Matthews returned to bat when the Windies won 105 for 4 and struck a quick 34 off 32 with 5 fours before falling LBW to Lauren Bell. Dean ending with match-winning figures of 4 for 35 off 9 as the West Indies folded for 165 in 40.3 overs. England women winning by 142 runs. The second ODI is on Tuesday at North Sound. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sport.
Meanwhile, Captain Hayley Matthews spoke to Cricket West Indies media following the match and looks ahead to the second ODI on Wednesday.
England's all-round performance in the first one-day international must be a cause of concern for the West Indies ahead of Tuesday's second fixture, but Matthews is optimistic about a turnaround.
Both facets of the game, we probably didn't do exactly what we wanted to, with a hope to restrict England to a bit less than they did on a decent wicket, and yeah, I guess with the same decent wicket, probably would have hoped to score a bit more runs. So a lot of learnings for us. Yeah, just looking to go back to the drawing board, I guess, and see what we can improve on in the next game.
Time now for the Qatar FIFA World Cup 2022 update.
On December 5, Brazil won their match against Korea 4-1. On December 6, as at news time, Morocco won their match against Spain with 3 goals on penalty, and Portugal won their game against Switzerland 6-1.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.